all your T's and all your I's are crossed in your business, especially if you're starting up right here, right now on Air Brands Live.
You are now tuned in to the On Air Brands podcast.
What's going on?
Another movie reference.
I got caught being goofy.
It was a movie reference. I didn't even realize that. I've always had the vision of when we come back from that to like enter in with like half of a punch of the joke.
Yes.
Of a joke.
Yeah. So he said. So the priest says.
Anywho, but that, are we?
Yeah. What's happening, folks? Happy day, because you may be listening to this on any day, but we're here on Your Brands Live as usual. Cast of characters. We have Devin Bravaco, Lisa Holbert, and the one and only Dr. Josh Carey. So yeah, we're here because we love to share ideas. We love to bring in guests. You know, each and every one here either has their own show or could have their own show. Wonderful, brilliant minds in the room, as always. But then we like to also throw into the mix something else, another subject matter expert. So we're really excited to talk to our guest that's going to be joining us today in just a minute. But Josh, you wanted to kick it off. You wanted to talk about momentum in a second, but I just wanted to the question in the beginning, crossing your T's and dotting your I's and paying attention to the details in your business, is all about what our guest is a subject matter expert in. So yeah, it's gonna be really cool. It's exciting. We're waiting for Josh to come back. He's flying through the internet right now.
Literally.
And, yeah, we're so here's the thing with the T's and the I's. I remember starting my business and always trying to find the right people that can help me with the law and the business side of things. I'm very creative, as a lot of you know, and to operate on that side, you have to find people that play to their strengths, play to your weaknesses. So, I mean, you guys want to expand on sort of what you did in the beginning, or Devin, when you started your companies, you know, were you considering these things, or were these things afterthoughts that you had to kind of catch up on?
So I have to say, and I'm probably not the norm in this situation, but coming from corporate events, planning events for a lot of financial advisors, I had a lot of contracts and a lot of legal jargon that I had to go through every event that we did. So when we started our business, I was very prone to contracts and to everything that needed to be signed beforehand. So I will say we did partner up with a lawyer that knew real estate, knew what we were doing. And we had so much to do and to learn, because obviously, you know, contracts for event planning, especially in a corporate downtown Manhattan world, is all different than contracting and working for real estate. So yes, I partnered up with a real estate specific firm that did all of our contracts, that did all of our LLCs, all of our formations. Everything was protracted in the right way. We actually have everything in formation in Nevada, and then we foreign filed in New Jersey. So we did take a lot of time. We did spend a lot of money into making sure that everything was protected and done correctly from the beginning. So I know I'm not probably your typical person, but from dealing with so many contracts and also being burned in the past from contracts and events, I really wanted to make sure that we did it correctly.
That's good. You're one of the few, because I know oftentimes when I talk to business owners, they're a hot mess. You know, especially startups, you know, people that are bootstrapping and trying to figure things out. Unless you're already playing in that space or you come from that background, oftentimes you neglect the details and the things that you're supposed to be doing, so that you're setting yourself up for future growth. I don't know, Josh, I know you wanted to talk about momentum and things, and we can get into that as well, because there is a ton of momentum. And let's bring Mitch in, and then let's let the conversation evolve here, because the momentum here. Hey, how you doing, Mitch?
Hey, I don't get any applause like background.
Welcome
applause.
to the show.
Hey.
Welcome
You
to
know,
the show.
No special
Yeah.
effects.
What's some of your thoughts behind and Mitch Beinhacker, welcome. You want to tell everyone the name of your business and what you do really quick?
Sure. My practice is called Beinhacker Law. I'm located in Clark, New Jersey. I live in Westfield, so it's kind of central Jersey, off the Parkway. I won't give you the exit number, but I work with small businesses, and that's what I do. I help them draft agreements and form organizations and negotiate contracts and close transactions. I do a lot of work in the real estate side, as Devin was saying, and I do a lot of stuff. As a matter of fact, I gave a speech yesterday, and I do it all the time, about the fact that nobody puts anything in writing. And I am always coming into situations where, we all look, if you want to play in the big pool, you got to put on your big girl pants, So
there's writing here, Mitch. That's not an agreement. Can I just put that in and hand it over and say, hey, that's our contract?
I actually have people that come to me. Some of them are attorneys and they're not practicing. And they're like, well, can we make a contract out of these text messages and emails? No, the answer is no, you can't, because it doesn't exclude anything else that you thought you might have spoken about 2 weeks ago. But the biggest problem, Eric, is that, and this is what I speak about, is that the problem is memory. It's not like somebody's going to try and screw you if you don't put things in writing. They might, but most of the situations I get involved with, both parties think they're right. Both parties believe that whatever it is they're thinking in their mind is exactly what they've spoken about. But there have been countless studies, and I'm writing a book about it now, and I'm talking to a memory expert on my podcast on Monday, how we just have these experiences that our minds don't work like computers, but the law wants us to work like a computer, right? So our mind's like a box, right? So everything we're picking up gets shoved in the box. We mix it all together. And then when we want something, we try and reach in the box and find out what it was that we thought. But the problem is that there's things going in the box that are other people's experiences. So I talk to you about something, and Josh, and maybe I talk to Lisa separately. I meet her separately, and I start acquiring things that I believe happened to me that you guys did. So you have to have things in writing. You got to do it early on. You got to set up your structures properly. I have partnerships that are breaking up that don't have agreements in place. I have real estate deals all the time. You put up a couple $100,000. By the way, very common, Devin, in the small deal business where you have a contractor building a house or a building for $200,000. He needs money. You put up the 200. It's all loosey goosey. We're going to do this. You can't keep track of anything, and I hate to use the word, but it's a crapshoot. Yeah. It really is difficult. So that's what I talk about all the time. It's like my big pet peeve.
I love that you say that too, because even so, we have, again, I'm like really big into this space. Obviously, I'm not an expert, but I try to surround myself with other people that can support me in that way. But even our contractors, I mean, so many people have different contractors that kind of screw them. And I'm like, but really, it's not them screwing you. You kind of screwed yourself because you didn't prepare. So like, yes, my heart feels for you, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't feel bad for you, because for our contractors, we make them sign 6 documents. Every contractor that starts 6 documents. We don't pay for anything up front. We only pay and reimburse for stuff that has been done.
Right.
We have everything written down. We have a payment structure written down. So if you ask me for money that's outside of the payment structure, you're not getting it.
And by the way, they're not supposed to be asking.
No.
They can take a small deposit for materials, especially the home improvement. If they're doing a home, there's all kinds of regulations. New Jersey's got terrible, terrible, terrible consumer fraud statutes, and they have to. So there are some industries that require things in writing as well.
Yeah. And I'm not wiring money. Like there's so many things that I'll say up front, I'm not wiring you money. There's so much wire fraud. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I'll write you a check. I'll send it to you via PayPal, but I'm not getting into that space. And then we make them sign like a contract. We sign like a lien waiver, everything after every piece is done, so that you can't say that we owe you money for what's been done.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that. Most people involved in real estate projects have no idea what a lien waiver is.
Yeah.
Basically, it's waiving so the subcontractors don't come put liens on your building because the contractor didn't pay them.
Yeah.
That's basically
That's not
what
on my watch. Like I'm not doing that.
no, but
And
it'll
then-
cost you money to get rid of it if
Yeah.
that happens. So yeah.
Mitch,
Yeah.
you have two interesting industries here because you're not only a lawyer, you're also a podcast host, right?
I am.
So how have you found in the connecting those two into your industry? Do you find that a lot of attorneys have a show, and what's the benefit to you directly for having a show of your own?
I don't know how many attorneys have a show, but definitely attorneys have a show because the reason I decided to podcast was I was listening to some of the law podcasts, clienting, lawpreneur, things like that, and they were highlighting some attorneys around the country that had their own podcast. I'm like, well, I can have my own podcast. I thought we need like a studio like you guys have. I could do this out of my kitchen. So I started looking into that. For me, podcasting is something that I like very much. I like the whole thought leadership type of stuff the people that I meet and talk to, but it's content marketing, right? So if you like to blog, then write blogs. If you like to do videos, although I put the video up too, but you know what I'm saying? If you don't like podcasting, you don't want to go through all the whole thing, fine. You guys know it's a lot of work to get this stuff ready. You guys doing a live show, but to edit it and to do all that work kind of stuff is a lot involved. So it's definitely brought me business. It's definitely connected with people all over the world, but I would suggest people not to do it unless they love it. Be a guest, be a podcast guest instead if you don't love.
You've come through PodMax, which is how we initially crossed paths, and you're coming back as another to do it again with us, round 2 next week, October 16th.
Made a lot of friends who are podcast hosts too as a result of it.
Yeah.
As a result of working with us last month.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Tell us about your experience coming through. What did you experience through PodMax as a show host?
Well, I mean, it was a great opportunity to connect with people in the community because I'm always looking to connect with more people in the podcasting community. I've been recommending it to a lot of people, especially if they're a host. I've probably connected with a dozen people that have different shows, not just through your show, but through like somebody was on the show and then connects me with somebody else. Met some really interesting guests, which I'm still editing and working on. And it was just a great day. When someday you can do it in person, it'll be even better, but I don't know if that's happening so quickly. So yeah, but I recommend it to everybody. I talk to people and I'm like, you've heard of PodMax? They're like, no. All right, well, get on it, join and, pay the fee and become a guest.
Thank you.
You got a good story to tell. So
appreciate that.
Yeah.
But and thanks for coming back too.
Yeah. I appreciate having me.
Yeah. So wait, the first time you came, you were a guest being interviewed on shows, correct? And then now
I was a host.
No, you were a host. And then this time you're coming back as host or
again?
Again. Yeah. But it does also lend itself well to you, like you said, when you're a guest. A lot of our hosts are always coming through and saying the next one I'm coming as a guest, because I mean there's so much that we have to offer as show hosts,
right?
But oftentimes we let our guests shine, right? They get 70-80% of the time, if not more. And we don't often get to share our thoughts and ideas as much as we could as a guest.
Right.
So yeah, it's always a win-win either side of the mic, but especially through PodMax. If you're a guest, you can really just have a fun time because now you're just telling your story and you're making
a great
it
way to build your brand. I mean, look what Jordan Harbinger said. He built his podcast with a lot of guesting.
Oh yeah.
So, that was valuable. It's funny. I just redid my show notes and like a little commercial because I realized I never talk about my practice. I'm spending all this time putting out 75 episodes. I think I have 105 recorded. So we're still editing. And I'm like, I don't even talk about the practice too much. So I kind of snuck it in there. So
that's a good catch because
you
want to be promoting yourself as well.
How did you first, going backwards a little bit, how did you first even come in? How did PodMax come into your sphere? Did we reach out to you? Did you connect with somebody?
No, I do a ton of networking, right?
Okay.
I'm on LinkedIn and on groups. I probably do 15 Zoom calls a week now. I didn't even know what Zoom was until the pandemic hit. Now here I am. And I'm always doing one-on-ones. And I connected with Kieran.
Yeah, Kieran brought him in.
Kieran,
He connected me with you guys.
Yeah. I remember that email. Yeah.
We love Kieran. That's awesome.
Yeah, he was a great guy. I've connected with some people.
Well, that was a good find by him because
Yeah, great.
you definitely have a little bit of a unique niche in being an attorney and understanding the real estate space, but the business space as well. So there's so many, there's so many angles I'm sure you can take in different people that you interview.
Oh, sure. I mean, I talk to anybody in the space really that influences, that has their own business. I've had really interesting people on that have, I guess they don't think it's so interesting, but once you get through their story, you're like, you did what? And then, to highlight them and to help them grow their business, I like doing, and I obviously like talking, so that helps. But, I don't know. It's a fun platform.
I'd love to get your take on something entrepreneurs are always conscious of and top of mind is pricing and the debate between exchanging time for money versus
Pricing of legal services?
Anything.
Okay.
Anything. Now, of course, because any entrepreneur has a pricing conversation for themselves. How are they going to price their product or service?
Right.
And are they going to exchange time for money? Are they going to exchange value for money? So I'd love to hear your point of view as an attorney who notoriously in the industry, right, you do put an hourly rate on the result, but it also has to take into consideration the value the client is getting, right?
Yeah. It's funny. Did my publicist call you guys and set this whole thing up? So I generally I try to not work on an hourly basis. I try to do work on a flat fee. I'm most effective with clients on a monthly flat fee, and then they get discounts for other things that I have to do. The reason being is that ad hoc legal services, and I'm sure Devin can tell you this, she works with real estate attorney regularly. The real estate attorney has an intimate knowledge of the way she runs her business. So when somebody comes to me and says, I'm having a problem with my partner, or we're getting sued, or an employee's, I have to go through all of their documents. So they have to pay me for 10 or 15 hours worth of work if it's an hourly thing, or I'm pricing it high because I got to get to know their whole business. And then I guarantee a week into me doing the work, I'm going to get an email, a text, or a call, and they're going to say, oh, you know what? We found this agreement that we had. Like, they have no recollection, because I told you about memory, of what they have. And I don't know, because I didn't set up the business, and it might not have been the way I wanted to set it up. So I prefer to work with people. I call it fractional general counsel services. And you can check out my website. It goes from $299 a month for solopreneurs, startups, to $4,000 a month, unlimited for everything but litigation. I don't litigate. But I have like a 5-level package, so I can work with people and know their whole situation, whether it's their family, their partners, or whatever. And then they get 15, 25, sometimes 50% discount on other work beyond just advice. Because people call me with questions all the time. I can't charge them. So advice and stuff like that. I do ad hoc work, but I'm not as effective when I do it. And I try to avoid hourly work. I do some hourly work, but it's just it's a total conflict of interest, right? Because you want to build up your hours, but you've got to do it for the client at a good price.
Right.
It's like the inherent conflict, hourly billing.
So
Did you go to law school right out of college? And
I didn't go to law school. Did you see Suits? Do you ever watch that show? So I'm not really a lawyer. I just masquerade on
You play one on podcasts.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Play one on podcast.
Right. What was the question? I'm sorry.
You went to law school out of college, out of high school, out of life.
Yeah, right.
Out of desperation. I
was 14. I went to, I didn't work. I went right to law school. Well, my grandmother was begging me to go to law school. That's what Jewish grandmothers do. So
hey, I've been there.
Yeah. So she was begging me to go to law school. And then finally I was getting near the end of college. I had no idea what I wanted to do, something in business. I don't know. And a buddy of mine was like, I think I'm going to go to law school. So I'm like, okay, I'll go to law school. 2 weeks later, he decided he's not going to do it. Well,
I could never do that. Yeah, I'll go.
Make grandma happy.
Yeah, so that's what happened. So he canceled 2 weeks later. He's now in real estate, by the way. And I said, well, do I really want to do this or not? I didn't know what I was going to do. So I went to law school, and that's what happened. Then I got out of law school, and I'm more of a business person than I am a lawyer anyway. So.
And you stuck with it. Here you are.
I stuck with it. I went, I worked for some insurance companies for a long time doing estate planning, business planning, that kind of stuff, which is kind of how I got into my practice. And then I went out on my own in 2006, something like that. I was in-house counsel for different companies and things like that.
Mitch, I got a question for the audience. I'm imagining that they're probably thinking, or if they're not, they should be thinking. So what are some of the most common pitfalls or some of the most common things that solopreneurs or
Yeah.
early startups, what are the common mistakes that they could have corrected had they done this, before reaching out to you to fix it?
Well, sometimes they talk to people without like non-disclosure agreements, which isn't difficult. You don't need a 40-page non-disclosure. A couple of pages would be fine. They, in the real estate business, like Devin was saying, they tend to get involved and don't have a proper structure for liability purposes. They don't have operating agreements between partners. And those operating agreements, by the way, don't cover like, well, if we're going to break up, which maybe should be a buy-sell agreement, if we're going to separate, like who gets the name, who gets the website, who gets the social media accounts, things like that, they don't really address them. And it's just a mess when somebody then says, by the way, you're not going to negotiate when you're not getting along. You got to do it when you are getting along. So I think business owners, they don't spend the time. And I do a lot of business plan assistance. I don't write them for people, but I'll review them and help them. People don't write business plans. They skip, like Josh said, they skip all the numbers. They don't know their numbers. They don't know their market. They're just winging it. I had a business plan challenge in August, and only 3 people finished. We had 50 people signed up. It was too much for them to do a business plan in 5 days. I gave them 4 simple parts, but it's a lot of the documentation and a lot of the details that people don't want to deal with because they're more right brain. They're creative. They're excited. They got all this great stuff going on. But if you want to be successful, which a lot of people have trouble with, we know businesses have very high failure rate. It's because lack of planning and attention to detail. That's the issue. It's not because we're all stupid. Yeah. We all have good ideas, but we don't follow them through and see if they make money. Just because it's an idea doesn't mean it's profitable. So you don't go through. I've had people go and make products and have a garage full of stuff, and then they can't sell it because they didn't do the market research to even figure out anybody's going to buy this thing. They just thought it was a great idea.
Yeah.
Tell us about the business plan challenge. That's interesting.
Yeah. So I had a friend do something like that. It was like a marketing challenge. And I said, well, I'm going to do, the reason I started the podcast was because I get very frustrated that business owners come to me, and there may be people I know, but I wasn't that intimately involved in their business. They're like, I need your help. I got to shut down my business. I'm like, did you open like 4 months ago? What do you mean? Yeah, well, we opened in the wintertime. We're an ice cream store. We didn't capitalize properly or whatever. They didn't do any planning. So of course I asked them to see their business plan. They don't have one. So I was thinking about what to do with the podcast, and I'm like, the accidental entrepreneur. I think I saw something for remember the accidental tourist? There was a movie with Wayne Hurd. Yeah. Devin probably doesn't know what that is, but so
that's a compliment, Devin. That's
it is a compliment. You're young. So I was like, that's what I'm going to call it, because people accidentally go into business. I get people come on the podcast all the time. They're like, I am the accidental entrepreneur. Everyone thinks that they are because they accidentally kind of fell into business. So, I lost my train of thought. What was your question, Lisa?
About the business plan challenge.
Yeah. So the business plan challenge came about because of the fact that I constantly find people without business plans. And I was talking to somebody and I said something like, well, I mean, you could do a business plan in a week. They go, how are we going to do that? And I go, well, I'm going to make this challenge. So I put it out there. We had a 4-part template. I boiled it down to 4 parts. It was like the product or service, your operations, people side of the business, marketing, and financials. Those 4 things. So, and each day they got an email with a video and the template. And then the first day it was all raring to go. And then second day, less people submitted. And third day was less. I think, of course, 2 or 3 finished at the end. Some people were like, oh, that was too much. I couldn't keep up with it. I'm like, well, that's why it was a challenge. I mean, that's why it was a challenge. So, yeah. So I might do it again. I don't know, maybe in the spring, to see if we can get some people. But a couple people finished and had really good results, and we're happy that they pushed their way through the business plan. And it's not the end, right? You have a business plan. So it'll be a working document. You should always be going back to and altering and changing and, that type of thing. But it was a good exercise. It was definitely good PR for me. And then we had like a Zoom call at the end of the week and talked about things and,
I love that. It's so important to have a business plan, and even just to have goals in general, like goals for yourself, goals for your business. I think that's something like I really focus on a lot. We did in the beginning, we created a business plan. We have it in a binder. We have every formation. Like if I were to pass away, if Justin were to pass away, what happens to the business? We literally have it all like documented out. And that was like so awkward at first, because it's like, okay, so if we get married and then we get a divorce, what happens? Like there's every scenario played out, and it's awkward because you're like, we're a couple, we're going into a business together. This is amazing. Everything's going to be great.
Right.
And so if you die, what happens? Like, it's just like an
Yeah.
awkward thing, but it's good to have.
No, look, all marriages probably should have prenups just because it makes it easier. But but we're in love and it'll ruin this and that. And I'm like, okay, we'll deal with it later.
Right. Yeah, that's the tough part, right? Because you have to ask yourself the hard questions. We put together a living trust, and we started asking a bunch of questions that we never would think of because they're kind of morbid to a degree. Like, okay, if we died in a plane crash, who's taking the kids? Things like
By
that.
the way, it doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, I'm sure.
28 years in practice, only lost like one client. I think he was 93. So.
But yeah, but just having that convo and putting your brain in that space, you're like, oh, yeah, I don't want to think about it. That's why it's hard. Exactly. That's why all this stuff is a challenge.
But you want to do the planning as if you're going to succeed, right? Not as if you're not going to succeed. So marriage aside, business planning, you need to have things in writing. Like Devin was saying, if you don't write your goals down, it's not some magic about writing down your goals. It's because we don't remember anything. So you can't stay focused on it. And yeah, but if you're doing this to not pretend and you're going to invest money, you better take the time to talk to a lawyer, to read something online, or get some things in writing, because you're just wasting all of your time and money.
Yeah. It's a necessary step, and it's also a great way to gauge your progress. So recently I blew the dust off of our business plan. I think the last time I looked at it was maybe 2018, early 2019. And I shared it with the team, and we were looking at it, and it looked like it was so old seemingly. And it had only been 2-3 years old, but it seemed like we were talking about things that it was like taking a time machine. And Devin, you even peeked into when you were kind of scrubbing a lot of the older stuff. There was communication there. Yeah, that were like, ooh, this seems like a kind of different company. So yeah, it's how often, Mitch, do you recommend that we revisit that plan and modify and tweak it?
I think you should be revisiting it quarterly. Things, especially nowadays, like things change so much during the pandemic. We probably moved 15 years ahead the way we run our businesses, deal with customers, everything like that. But at least the strategic planning side of it, the financials, if you're doing financial bookkeeping, will kind of take care of itself. But like you said, depending on the business you're in, it changes so much. The way you communicate, the messages you're putting out, the social media stuff you're doing, it's not the kind of thing like a financial plan where you throw it in a drawer, which probably isn't good with a financial plan either, but throw it in a drawer and then you go back to it 10 years later and find out what happened. Like it's magic. Like what happens if it doesn't go well? So I encourage people to use that document, and maybe the document becomes multiple documents, right? Maybe you have an operating manual and a financial manual and an employee handbook and different types of things to continue to run your business. It's not something you really should put aside. Your team, if you have a team, or you should have an intimate knowledge of what your business plan says. And because it's a roadmap for your business. And if things change because the industry changes or you change, you want to do something different, then adjust your plan, because that's what it's there. That's what it's there for. It's a working, document. So I encourage people to, use it as much as they want. Just have it an intimate part of the way they run their business.
Yeah. This is also being October. Gino Blafari, who's the head of all Berkshire Hathaway, the real estate, he really focuses on, it's October. It's a great time to business plan for 2021.
Yeah.
Don't wait till January. Now is the time to sit down and kind of look at the coming year.
Right.
And when you really dig into it, it makes a lot of sense.
Sure.
You can really take the time now, because whatever you're doing now is going to affect you in the first quarter of the year.
Yeah. And you're really, once we hit like Thanksgiving, people are either too full or too drunk to
this year.
Yeah. That's why I like to do things on a monthly retainer, because you can imagine how busy I am in December, and like nobody calls me about anything unless there's a problem. But it's that, because you're really looking at like a quarter where only so much gets done. So be ready to hit the ground running in January. It's definitely good advice.
I want to focus on a topic you introduced, Mitch, regarding the business plan challenge. and the way that people started strong and then trickled off. We also have a 5-day challenge to help you identify and communicate your message.
Okay.
And we've experienced the exact same thing.
Yeah.
There's a chunk of people day one, and then every day it's less and less
Sure.
that
Well, it's the
get to the
Pareto
finish.
principle or whatever, right?
What is it?
It's the the principle where you only 20%
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
it out of the 80% out of 20, only
Yeah.
20% of that group actually
Mhm.
finishes. It's human nature.
Yeah, it is human nature, and it's certainly not exclusive to online challenges. So I'd love to bring it up for us and certainly for our audience who can relate to this in every way, whether it's personal, social, or business. When we start something new, a new book, a new anything, right? Our intention is so powerful and strong, but then the follow through, even a 5-day challenge, really
Yeah.
consider and think
For
what
free.
we're saying here. Yeah,
Yeah.
for free, which is a whole other conversation.
Maybe you should have charged them money, then they would have finished it. Yeah.
Who knows,
Get in
right?
the game. Yeah.
So I'd love to just get some dialogue around that of people and what it takes to really go through something that you have a legitimate intention to sign up for, to start, to do.
Right.
But then even 5 days later, 3 days later, 6 months later.
Did you guys ever read that book, Eat That Frog?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've spoken
No,
about it.
Never
Yeah.
read it. Know the
But-
saying.
Long time
Right.
ago.
Procrastinating reading it, Eric? It's about procrastination.
I
It's all about
thought it was
procrastination.
just a saying. I didn't realize there was a whole book.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
an old
Well,
book,
that's where
Eat
it
That
came from.
Frog. It's all about procrastination and follow through. But Josh, I think that's like the key to life. We are bombarded with how many podcasts are there now? Did we hit a million yet?
A million.
Yeah,
Yeah,
over a
over a
million.
million. Yeah.
Okay, there you are. So, right, and that's just podcasts. So we are bombarded with information where you get a book and then while you're reading it, even on Audible, right, it suggests 5 other books to you and you're like, oh, I'm going to read that. So we're totally ADD in terms of our focus. But
It's true.
I think that's one of the keys. Like I am very big on list making. As a matter of fact, I have, you guys ever see this thing? You ever see one of these? It's called Remarkable. Have you heard of it?
No.
No, that's really
Okay.
cool.
It's a tablet, right? But
Yeah.
it writes like paper,
Right.
like a paper and pencil.
With a
So I have-
stylus? Yeah.
yeah. But so let me see if I can hold this up. So you see the way the writing looks?
Yeah.
So I can literally just write right on the screen and download it to whatever I'm doing and erase. So I
Okay.
don't have to use a pad,
Oh, wow.
Love
real
it.
paper, and have paper all over my office. So I'm very big on that. I make little notebooks of my ideas or my goals, or
Wow.
I'm working on a podcast production company with half a dozen podcasters, some of which I met actually through PodMax.
Well,
because
let's
we're
talk
pooling our
separately about
resources.
that. We'd like to
Yeah.
support that and
Pooling of
coordinate,
resources
yeah.
and things like that because we're all so small we can't do anything on our own. And so I keep all those lists because I want to be organized, because I don't want the pressure to have to remember what book that I read. You ever read a
Yeah.
book and then put it down, and then 2 years later you pick it up, you can't even remember what you read. You got to
yeah.
start over again. Yeah. So I'm big on making lists and staying on top of things. And Eat That Frog is a very good book about getting things done and procrastinating and getting in better habits than we're in. And I think your point's
Habits.
well taken, because
Yeah.
our habits are terrible. We like to do the things that we enjoy, not that are the most effective things.
So e-markable tablet.
Yeah,
That
how
was
much
the
is
name
that?
of it?
Like, two-
Remarkable with an
Oh,
R.
remarkable.
Yeah, they have version 2. It's a great
Remarkable
On
thing.
Amazon?
tablet.
$350. No, go to remarkable.com.
Oh.
I don't think they sell through Amazon.
Oh.
And then also you Eat the Frog book, Jake. Let's put those in the
Eat the
notes.
Frog.
That's all good
And
stuff.
by the
Not going
way, I
to-
also do a lot of stuff when it comes to business planning. You don't need a 50-page business plan. You can do the one-page marketing plan. You can do the lean canvas. You can do, there's a bunch that are just one page.
Just
to
do
get-
it. Right. Yeah.
Yes, just to start.
Yeah.
I'm
What's
not
the
saying
lean
that's the end.
canvas? I
Lean
love the name of
Canvas
that.
is another. If you look LEAN, if you look up lean canvas, you do a search online. It's a canvas with boxes, and it
Hmm.
covers different parts of your business plan. But it's a way to kind of, like Devin said, kind of brainstorm the idea and lay it out and kind of think about it and make it a working structure for yourself, as opposed
love
to
that.
yeah.
What are some other tools that you would recommend people to just get it started? I love that.
Yeah, I like a book called Referral of a Lifetime. It's about building a keep in touch program. I'm finding, even with podcasters that I'm meeting, nobody's building like an email list, like of an audience that they're like, well, I just put it on social media. I'm like, well, that's how I got 5 subscribers. So, you got to build it. And I have, 2,700 people on my list, and I don't know everybody. I don't know where they all came from. That goes up and down. But, you want 500 people on your list who know you, who also know another 500 people, and that's whatever 120,000 people or something. So I find that keeping in touch and building your brand is kind of important with any business that you have, and a lot of people don't do it. You ever go to a restaurant and they have a little fishbowl like for free lunch? And
Yeah, you put your business card in.
yeah. Right. And do you ever hear from that restaurant again if you don't win the free lunch? They like don't do anything. They don't do anything with the names. It's like gold. People came in to eat there. You should be like thanking them and send them coupons all the time. I get very few businesses that do that.
Oh, Devin, that reminds me. There's some T-shirts that we need to send out from those fish bowls that people.
There you go. That's funny.
Yeah. You're so right. It's just building that list, and it's always a challenge because I think people get over one hurdle. So creating a podcast and getting past that pod fade number of 8 to 10 episodes, right? You reach that goal, and then now you're back to business. You're back to life, and you're like, okay, I figured out hopefully a system and that's operating. And now a year, 2 years, 100 episodes go by. You never really, like you said, built a machine around it so that it can get to the next level because you've only accomplished the first phase and you didn't take it to the next level so that you can begin to build a database and begin to sort of leverage the audience that you're building.
You might burn out as a result too.
Right. And I'm saying these things because I'm guilty of that. I'm only 2 years in, 3 years into my podcast and only doing those things now. So yeah, I think it's great. Just like with everything, this whole theme of the conversation is, putting your best foot forward and the tools and all the stuff in place before you begin, or as you're in the process of beginning, so that it's easier down the line and you're not playing catch up.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that we'd all like to do, but I don't know if you can wait for all the lights to be green before you head towards town, So, because some people have this, paralysis of analysis type of thing, and their business plan's got to be perfect, and they get to do this. I know people I've been talking to about launching a podcast; they just can't do it. They're like, "Yeah, I've got this idea, and sometimes you just got to do it." But like for example, On Air Brands Live, and you guys are doing this every week and whatever. You want to be consistent, and I'm sure it makes you don't want to miss an episode, because it breaks the whole cycle. So you got to build in a lot of automated things. I got my calendar that connects to Zoom. Zoom connects to MailChimp and other services. And then that goes out to people, adds them to my mailing list because I can't keep up with it. I have a thing about my law practice, like 6 emails you get about what I do in the podcast. But it all happens automatically. So if you make a meeting with me through my calendar, you get added to my list, and then the emails start. I don't know. I don't see them. But I didn't have that at first. So you definitely have to put the time in to create the materials and the marketing stuff. I say to business owners, I think they should spend 80% of their time doing marketing and business development and 20% of their time squeezing and running the business. Because what it'll do is it'll force them to have other people do running the business, and they can do the E-Myth work on their business like they should be if they're real entrepreneurs. If you're just working on your business all the time, you're just an employee who also happens to own a business. You're not really an entrepreneur. So you want to get that. And if you, like Josh was saying, if you put yourself in the position where your habits are forced to offload things because you're spending so much of your time marketing and business development and stuff, so have someone else do the $20 an hour work. You should do the $200 an hour work, Yeah. So that's the position I try to put myself in. I spend more time marketing and doing business development and connecting with people, and I can't even get the work done. Like I squeeze it in at nights or the weekends, whatever, because I know I'm going to get to the point where I want to hire more people and get virtual assistants, whatever. I don't want to be doing, attorneys are famous for this. They will market, then they'll get busy, and they will stop marketing. And it's like a roller coaster yo-yo.
Yeah.
I hate to, criticize my colleagues, but that's the reality of practicing law. So you want to make sure you're more on the marketing side so you don't run out of business. You can hire people to do the work.
Yeah. I think that's one of the first, sorry, Devin, I just wanted to get this thought out. One of the first steps when you're building a business, because at first it feels like a side hustle. At first it starts to feel like, okay, this is kind of a thing on the side that I'm trying to build as it grows slowly. And the hardest part, because I experienced this, and I talked to a lot of entrepreneurs that experience this, they can't get past they can't accept the idea of the first hire, like a VA. For example, is like one of the perfect, right? Because they were so accustomed to building and working in it that's their day to day, and they're just continue to hustle and grind. And then they get to the point where like, I can't do all this.
Right.
And you start to resent your own business because now you're, like you said, you're working in it, you're an employee in your business. And then usually that aha moment is somebody telling them and giving them permission to say, it's time to hire someone, a VA, to help you with all the administrative work, to get that off your plate. So now you can free up your time to build the business and do like this, you were talking about, the higher level stuff, the marketing and all that. So what are some of the things, what are the indicators to you that you could tell people, that you've seen, even for yourself?
Yeah.
It's time. You're ready for that first.
Yeah. I think the ones that I see that do it right, it's very hard to break the shackles of the enslavement that your business has imposed on you. Right. So you go there and that's what you do. And you get in those habits. The best ones I've seen, whether it's in their business plan or their strategic plan, they figure out what kind of revenue do we need, whatever do we need, when I can afford to add a virtual assistant, another worker, a better office space, virtual services. And they calendar that out, and they know, listen, if I bring on 3 clients in the next quarter, I can go and hire my virtual assistant. And then they prepare for it. Because the biggest problem is, so you bring on the virtual assistant and and he or she goes, well, what do you want me to do? And you go, well, I don't know. I'd like this here. I'm going to give you some stuff, and you have to be prepared for it. So the ones that strategically plan it out and know, when that's going to happen, then in your mind, you're not locked into, well, I don't know if I'm so comfortable doing it. You're ready to do it. So you should go in. What I recommend to business owners is that go into the approach of, okay, I'm going to plan out when I want to bring on a virtual assistant, when I want a person to handle my books, my marketing, my podcast editing. I do all the editing myself. Some of it I enjoy, but at some point when this thing starts monetizing, if it ever does, I'll get a group like you guys have. But, I do a lot of that myself, but I've systematized it. I have a list and I get through it as quickly as I can. It used to take me 8 hours. Now it takes me 45 minutes. But those are the ones that I think are not so, what's the word? We don't want to let go of anything. Mm-hmm. And even solopreneurs, a lot of people say, well, I'm just a consultant. I mean, I don't need staff. I think you like doing everything yourself. Well, I mean, not everything. Okay, well, make a list of the things you don't like doing or aren't productive for you. Mm-hmm. And let's figure out how you can get a VA, even for the Philippines, overseas. I got somebody dealing with the Philippines and $2 or $3 an hour. And they're very high skilled people overseas. So you don't have to do that. You can hire them here too. There's all kinds of VA services, but my point is that even if you're a solopreneur, decide what you want your organization to look like. How is it going to improve your life and not, what does Mike McCallum lead you to entrepreneurial poverty? Mike McCallum was on my podcast in August. He's a great guy.
We
great
love
books,
Mike.
by the way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All of them.
I
should bring him on the podcast, Max.
Definitely. Yeah, he should definitely.
He talks about entrepreneurial poverty. That's what we do. We go into business. First of all, we're poor. We all live off cash flow, and we don't know how much we're making, so we don't know our numbers. And we're just like slaves to the business, and we don't enjoy what we do. So plan it out. It's all about planning, writing it down, making your lists, and already being, what's the word? Already being, committed to that time frame. I have a woman who had started her own commercial cleaning business. So they clean office buildings and stuff. She used to work for companies, whenever she finally went out on her own. She knows exactly the point at which she brings on more workers. She knows her numbers. She knows how much she gets paid by her customers, how many more customers she needs. She knows her numbers. And totally self-made from another country, learned English here. Now I think she has a college degree and everything, but didn't at first. And, but she knows it. And that's what you got to do.
Oftentimes we feel it, right? We feel the stress. We feel, the pressure of, getting to the next step. And oftentimes we may not identify that, hey, it's a VA or it's an assistant or someone to take that the light load off of your plate. But then we still don't want to pull the trigger, right? We still need the permission. And you mentioned this, and we do this too. When we've realized we need another position filled, is when to confirm that we'll create a list of, or we'll track our time for several weeks, and we'll see, okay, oh wow, and then we'll put it all together and say, oh look, that's all stuff that she can do or he can do. That's all stuff that they can do, and then we That's a position. Let's take all of that off your plate, and put it together and create a job description. And then that is the new hire. And now let's go and find it. And then the question after that is, now what do you do with all that free time? Right. I tell this to my wife too, because I have mentors and coaches that this is funny. A lot of people don't think of this because it sounds pretentious, but they tell you if you can get rid of the menial tasks in your house, like laundry and cooking and cleaning, and you got all that time back, what would you do with that time? And it's the same thing in your business, right? If you can hire someone to do the cooking and the cleaning and the laundry and all that stuff that anybody could do. Anybody could do that for $5-10 an hour. Whereas you can go off and create businesses for hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands or millions of dollars with those extra 10, 15, 20 hours that you're getting back. So I think if you have to think of it in those simple terms, hopefully it motivates you to take that step and know that person's going to pay themselves in dividends.
Of course.
Once
that's why planning it out is important, as opposed to waiting till you're so busy that you have to create a new job and then figure out what the person's going to do. If you have it all planned out, you'll know what you're going to do next. You know, I mean, look, we all have great ideas and you want to work on stuff. And if you got somebody taking all that stuff off your plate, I think the biggest fear is people think they're going to be obsolete in their own business, but that's just not the truth.
Right.
You know?
I love what you're saying too. And I'll never forget, and Lisa, I bring this up to you a lot, but I remember talking to Lisa when I kind of first met her and saying like, oh boy, I wish I had like an admin too. And she was like, it'll come at the right time. And it's so interesting because like in my business plan, like in me and Justin talking, like we were planning on hiring someone next year. And just like as we are growing, you know, we're getting more projects, we have more things going on. We have like a design element going on now too. And so we actually ended up getting 2 more projects than we had thought this year. And so it came at a great time because we were planning for it. We knew it was coming. And someone reached out to Justin saying like, hey, can I work for you guys? Like, I'm interested in learning more about what you do. I've been watching like what you're doing. I've been watching your projects and stuff. And we're like, yes, like, and it was more so, I think to your point was that we were planning to hire someone. Was it the exact time that we had planned it? No, but we knew it was coming.
You were ready for it.
So we were ready. And now I'm like, it's like life changing. It's so nice. She's been taking on so much stuff. I knew exactly what I was going to give her because we had that all planned out. There were certain things that like, so now it's like, she's just so helpful. And I'll never forget that conversation with Lisa because it was more about like planning for the future, knowing that like, yes, it's a want, it's a need, but it's not a right now. And so then when it presented itself, I jumped on it, and it's been so helpful in so many ways.
Yeah, absolutely. No question about it.
And I think the thing too is that we have to get over ourselves. Like we're like, well, we can only, and I know even designing, Eric, I know you design things and you're like, well, no one can do it better than me, which is true. But it's like, we have to at some point get over and be like, okay, I have to pass it on to somebody else. They might make mistakes, but you know what? I can't do everything.
Die.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's also a level of trust. Like you have to you just have to trust in that individual, whoever it is that you're passing along. Because, you know, I'm guilty of it as well. And I have a lot of friends who are working in their business and not on it. And I'm constantly telling them, you need to get out of it. And I notice and I could see it's because they don't trust the team to take care of it.
Either you have the wrong team or it's something between your ears. And I mean, they're not going to screw it up that bad.
Yeah.
It's not going to destroy your business. You gotta, you know, there's nothing that I do that is irreplaceable. I have good ideas and I'm doing this and the podcast, that great. A lot of people are doing that. And I could hire out most of the stuff. Certainly my legal services are not unique. I can hire somebody to do most of those. And my ideas just drive my business. I don't know if I'm right or I'm wrong, but I think you're right, Eric. People are attached to, or maybe it's an insecurity or whatever it is that they won't let go. And we see family businesses like this all the time, right? The dad and the grandfather won't let the sons run the business, even though the sons kind of are running the business, and then they're just getting in the way all the time. I get a lot of situations where people are referred to me and the son says, I don't know what to do because I'm basically the president. My brother kind of only half works here, but he's supposed to work here. My dad's coming in, interfering.
I think I know that guy.
An agreement. Yeah, everybody knows that guy.
A couple of them out there.
But then what do you do? That's a kind of a hard road to go down when you're already You know,
Yeah.
it's hard, but that's why you got to kind of know.
I think it's permission too, right? Because in those scenarios, it's like giving the owner or the dad or the grandfather like permission. Hey, it's okay. Go dip your toes in the sand. Take the day off.
Well,
Take
that's
the
why a
week
coach
off.
is
We've got
important,
this. Yeah.
And mentors are important if you can't afford a coach or
Yeah.
both, maybe, because you need somebody who's, and that's why I work with people, because I'm not emotionally involved in the business. I'll tell them, what the hell are you doing? That's stupid. You should have this person talk to this person, take care of it. And then when the ones that actually follow my advice, because not everybody does, they call me back. They'll be like, oh my God, you're totally right. That this person, I talked to Josh and I talked to Devin, they changed my life. I go, well, because I told you they would. That's, you just got to trust a little bit. And then I think if you trust once and it works out and things start coming together, you then get better at it. It's like a learned habit. And you're like, you know what? And look, I've been burned too. Bad employees, partners, people stealing ideas. And I survived, we whatever.
Well,
It's
that's
like
how
the
you
kids,
get.
right? It's like telling your kids, trust me. And they're like, well, I'm going to go do it my way.
Yeah, well,
Okay,
that's
yeah,
that's
you
a
know,
whole
and
nother episode. We can do. I gotta my kids. The only thing different between me and my kids is that when I was their age, I thought I knew everything too.
right.
That's the only thing we have in common.
And what you're describing, Mitch, is how you get confidence in anything. I'm proof that a few years ago, when I had zero confidence to come to the table with anything, how do you get an overwhelmingly positive sense of confidence? It doesn't happen over a short amount of time or certainly overnight. It happens slowly but surely when you take a
Right.
small action and see the result of a successful win. That's how you get confidence. You can't fabricate it in your head. You can't will it to happen. You have to take some sort of action, find
Right.
the win, and then celebrate and say, wow, that worked. I did it. Even if it's as simple as, you know what? I set my alarm for 5:30 a.m. and I got up without the snooze button. Yes. And then you just do it.
But there's
do it,
ways
do it.
you can affirmatively push the envelope. If you have trouble public speaking, you can join Toastmasters. If you're not sure, you go to therapy or get a coach or whatever to get you through certain things that are between your ears. I mean, there's ways to push that along as opposed to letting it happen naturally, because it might never happen naturally.
Hey, Mitch, so you have a obviously wealth of knowledge and
I have knowledge. I don't know if
of
it's a
value. But I mean, you're super valuable and you got a lot of great advice and people that you've met along the way, especially at PodMax. Is there any particular story during coming to the events that you're working with them now, or you're starting to form that relationship where it's mutually beneficial? So any ideas or people that you could share?
I don't know if specifically from PodMax, but I mean, I mentioned before to Josh that we're working on a podcast production company to pull, mailing lists and resources and maybe get sponsorships and things like that. So a few of them I met through PodMax. I don't remember the guests that I have. I'd have to look at my notes, but yeah, I mean, I'm working with a lot of people because they came on my podcast.
Yeah.
I was introduced, or they came on my podcast. They referred me to someone else. But it's this content marketing in terms of, look, you get to spend an hour with somebody, hearing their story, putting it out there, helping them promote what they do. They remember you. It's a very good medium for building relationships.
Yeah, and I appreciate you understanding the value of it, because we get it, and we're often singing from mountaintops like, hey, figure this out for your business, because even though it doesn't necessarily exist, there aren't many companies, if any other companies, doing what we're doing. So it's a little bit of a lift for us to explain because it's a little abstract. But from the host's perspective, you see, right, like coming to the event and meeting all these entrepreneurs, not just the ones that are on your show, but that are in the room as we begin to network, and then the keynotes, and then all the other
connected
stuff
with
that we
all
bring.
of them. I connected with all of them. It's all good stuff. I think that at the end of the day, if you are active in the space, podcasting specifically, you can get a lot out of it, but you can't like put out an episode every 3 months and expect people to, you kind of gotta, I do twice a week now, but I was doing like once a month and once a week. Now I have so many episodes, I don't know what to do with myself, but you want to gain some momentum.
It's awesome. So yeah, the PodMax event is coming. There's always one coming, but there's one right at our heels here because registration's closing this Friday.
It's not full. There is some room. I got a couple of people might be interested.
There's room. Friday we're closing it. Devin, I don't know what time we usually close it, if it's beginning or end of day.
End.
I'm imagining end.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're closing it so that we can put all the dominoes and everything in place so that it's all set up nicely and clean, and everybody can get their schedules on Monday. What happens is you sign up, hopefully before Friday, and then you'll get your schedule early next week of all the podcasters that you're going to be talking to, and then, or the other way around, you're a host, you get all the guests that you'll be interviewing, as well as the entire agenda, which I don't know if that's fully baked yet. We're still working on, but yeah, we're going to push that out there where you're going to see, we're going to have a wonderful conversation with Hal Elrod and how podcasting really exploded his business. Probably the critical point that developed everything that we're going to reveal. So a little spoiler alert, but yeah, we're excited about it because October 16th, not this Friday, but next Friday is the actual event.
Right.
And not to mention, we also have Matt Wolf and Joe Fear of the Hustle and Flow Chart podcast. And, they're titans in the industry as well. So they're going to be sharing a ton during the lunchtime keynote. Anything you want to add, Josh, about the event?
Yeah, I mean, it always stands to be reiterated, whether you acknowledge this or not as a show host or a guest, somebody who guests. I have a keynote presentation that I give, and I also use these stories when I'm a guest on shows. It's how podcasting saved my life and grew my business. Now, on paper, that can sound like a big boatload of hyperbole where it's like, yeah, I get it, but tell me what it really means. No, it really means that. I came out of a life living in misery and frustration and anger and darkness and lost and confusion, and found literally to this very day, getting me to this very moment through everything that podcasting represents in and around my life and my business, to a life full of love and success using the podcast medium, least of which my own show, The Hidden Entrepreneur. We just published episode 175. Now, getting in front of that many people is going to cause some momentum and success for you.
It's your own therapy. You're doing your own therapy.
It literally is,
Yeah,
naturally. But also, last year, it got me in front of a gentleman named Eric Cabral, who was a guest on my show quite randomly. And look what that has led to. So that's a broad statement of how podcasting saved my life and grew my business. All of this wouldn't be taking place. I wouldn't be sitting here in beautiful Trenton, New Jersey on this show, going out live right now, talking about PodMax if podcasting itself didn't exist in my world. I'm not unique. Every person, every business owner, every entrepreneur can use the podcast medium to spread your message, to share your message, to take your agenda exactly where you want it to go. And that's in part what PodMax can do for you. Not only are you going to instantly be a guest on 3 shows in one day, think of the time and effort and scheduling we're saving you there, but prior to the big event, we have a pre-event training where we work with you in small groups to help you identify, practice, and communicate the message in anticipation of the big event. So when you're recording the shows and you're matched with somebody like Mitch or one of our other show hosts, you're going to master it. You're going to nail it. You're really going to show up knowing who you are, what you're talking about, and what the end result is. It's a win-win-win all around. That's why people like Mitch continue to come back time after time. That's why some of the guests we have are coming back literally for the 5th time in a row. Can you imagine that? The 5th time people are coming back as a guest because they see the value. Really understand not only the value of PodMax as an event and an experience, but what we're giving you through the medium of being a guest on podcasts. Podmax.co right now.
Love
Josh,
that.
I think your lack of enthusiasm is the problem with the whole platform.
I'm working on it.
You're just not committed to it. You're just not committed to it.
Commit, man. Come on.
Yeah.
But
I think it's interesting because the the hosts are people that are really skilled at what they do. I mean, I've interviewed 100 people. You get good at it after a while. You can make people look good and feel good. I get people just so nervous. And by the end, they're like, wow, that was really great. Because that's my job. My job is to make you feel good and get things out of you and guide you along in your journey. And you meet some really cool people on Podmax.
I want to bring up one point you make, Mitch, and thank you for acknowledging the enthusiasm. I'm enthused because of where I've been, where I am, and certainly where I'm going. But everything we're talking about here and what you're seeing and hearing and experiencing is a learnable skill.
Yep.
All of this is teachable. And that's what we preach, that wherever you think you are in your podcasting journey as a host or a guest or in your entrepreneurial world, like, who cares what I have to say? Do I have anything to say?
No.
What does it matter?
That's why
what
interviews
I have to say?
are good. You don't have to say anything to start. Let them say it. Look, the first time I started, I was like nervous to hear my voice on the thing, and it makes you nervous, but you get comfortable at it after a while.
Oh, yeah.
And it's learnable. The more you do it, the better you get. And that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Great stuff. I'm
So
excited for next week.
Yeah. Thanks for coming through, Mitch. Thanks for being a part of the family. Thanks to everyone here, Devin, Lisa, Josh. As always, we'll be back next Wednesday at 11. If you're listening to this podcast, please like, subscribe, and share it with your friends and family. There's always a ton of golden boulders that you could mine for. They're not nuggets. They're actually big, big chunks of stuff that you can garner from these shows. And it's here, and it's available for you. So let your friends know. And we're looking forward to talking to you soon and seeing you at Podmax October 16th. But don't forget, registration closes this Friday. So jump in now, and you'll get to meet our pal Hal with the Miracle Morning. See you next week.
You're now tuned in to the